All right, Captain Ron, welcome to Gray America. We've never had you on before, but thanks for joining us.
Absolutely, guys. I really appreciate it.
We
Getting
get to,
ready for the big show here.
yeah, we get to talk to like the owner of the biggest UFO conference in the world, probably in the world, I would assume.
As far as we know, yeah, it's pretty big. We've got 75 speakers this year.
Oh wow, holy
Our
shit!
goal was to pull it back to 50. We had like 60 last year, and we said, well, we're going to pull it back to 50. And as of this morning, we're at 75. And it's our 10-year anniversary, so we ended up just sort of adding a few folks, and it just kind of kept going and kept going.
Right, right. Well, that's good. I mean, if you can do that, I mean, I know it's kind of it's sort of sketchy or risky with conferences with all the expenses and all that. But I mean, if you can get that many people and draw in the crowd, then that'll be a great one. I like how you've set up all the panels. You've got like really big panels with special topics. That would be awesome to attend those.
We're doing 14 panels this year, and one of them is going to be legends, and we're just doing all the like legendary guys. Like we actually have Whitley Strieber there, and George Norrie's going to sit on that. Linda Moulton Howe, let's see,
Dolan.
Russell Targ, and George or Richard Dolan. It's going to be really great to have all those guys have done so much. Travis Walton, and Whitley Strieber. I mean, these are pioneer guys that have changed the face of this whole community.
Yep. Yep. So you've had this for a year? Is it just a year now? So
We bought it literally about a year ago. Me
Yeah.
and Gordon Peckrell. He used to run the MegaCon UFO Mega Conference out of Laughlin.
Yep.
And we took this. Well, we kind of did it in conjunction with the previous owners last year, and then so this is our first year alone.
Okay.
And it's the 10-year anniversary of the live conference. Contact actually started like in 2010, but then COVID shut it down, and they tried to do it live, virtual one year, and then they've been shut down since. So we brought it back last year, and then now we're going to do the 10-year anniversary of the live conference, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And we're really getting excited now because we're starting to get close, and you can kind of feel people are all like buzzing about it a little bit.
Yeah. So this is at the end of May, right? May 30th.
May 30th. It's a 5-day event now. We actually have 5 days of content. We added a free track on Monday, so people that stay for the intensives and the one-on-one type of intensives on Monday, they now have a choice to go to a free track, which is going all day as well. So, I mean, it's really 5 days of content, and it's great because all these guys, talk to each other as well. It's fun seeing different speakers with different research collaborate and talk about, what they're working on.
Yeah, exactly. And it's got I guess you've got a wide variety. I mean, this isn't just about one aspect of the phenomena. This is everything, right?
It's everything. It's everything. We're focused a lot this year on ufology, and disclosure, of course, has a lot coming on. I'm sure you guys saw there's no need for that because the Pentagon came out and said that don't worry about it. It's all real. There's no aliens. There's no UFOs. So
yeah.
Aside from that report, many of our researchers obviously are working on that, and disclosure's been huge lately. It's been in the news. There's been a bunch of guys talking to Congress. We've got congressional hearings on this now. So we're going to do a lot about the movement that's happening within government right now and the actual steps towards actual, big D disclosure.
So this is so different than when, like I was telling you before we started the show about, I volunteered in UFO Congress, which was probably, but might have been the biggest back then. I'm not sure. It was fairly big. 2013 UFO Congress, and I mean, this has changed so much. The landscape has changed so much since then. Like 10 years, and now, like you're talking about, now you've got a whole government aspect of it. This disclosure thing. I don't even know how you keep up. I can't. I mean, not that I try to keep up, but I can't even. There's just so much going on. I can't even.
There's a lot of stuff happening and a lot of different, viewpoints and takes on stuff too. So it's really fun to kind of get the different aspects and try to figure out. I know you guys cover things that are a little bit different, but even within those communities, I'm sure you have the same problem we have, like in the UFO community. It's the misinformation, the disinformation, the nonsense that goes on that clouds up. So you kind of got to sift through that, pick which researchers seem to be the most on point, and kind of find out, what you feel is really happening.
Yeah, not sort of attach your your whole belief system to any new information right away type stuff. I mean, there's a lot of you mentioned a couple examples. I was listening to one of your shows, and it's kind of the way I feel about it too. Just sort of watching it, kind of like watching what's going on, but not really kind of getting too
Yeah,
attached.
people like to jump on it. I mean, that's the world today. Even sports stories. These guys, somebody signed. They want to be the first reporter to report on a signing or a trade or whatever. It's like, slow down. Let's wait and see how this pans out. And that it may not happen. And a lot of these things, maybe that video's fake. Maybe it's a hoax. Maybe it's who knows what it could be. But I think it's best to use caution in this arena. Certainly, I don't like when people jump to it's aliens.
Yeah.
Let's check all the other boxes first, and if nothing else seems to work, then maybe it is aliens.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I just don't
Yeah,
like to.
yeah.
It's a little presumptuous to jump with the alien thing.
Did that AARO release surprise a lot of people in the community? It seemed to cause a bit of a shockwave. I mean, most people obviously were kind of like poo-pooing it right away, but
You mean the Pentagon report where they said that it's not real, there are no aliens?
Yeah.
Well, it's the exact same thing they've been saying for 50 years, and I feel like that's ridiculous. I mean, just in the last 5-6 years since 2017, when we've had all those videos come out and all the stories come out, how can they say the same thing they did in 1947? There is no existence of extraterrestrial life as far as we know. I mean, you've got people, military witnesses. Listen, and I'm skeptical about this, and I'm objective about this, and I look at this with common sense, but there's a lot of smoke here. I mean, it just seems kind of ridiculous that they would come out now. Feels kind of arbitrary to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's coming from yourself. You've been in this field for quite a while, and you haven't had any personal experiences, I don't think, right? Contact, anyways. Right?
No, nothing like that. No, of course not. But I do still think that there's value there, and I don't know why we dismiss all these people. I mean, there's a lot of extremely credible people making extraordinary claims. Why do we just dismiss that out of hand? And I'm a big person who believes that, is that guy John Mack from Harvard University, the head of psychiatry for Harvard for years. He did a lot of stuff in this. He wrote the book Abduction, and he studied this. And his conclusion was that the people that he looked at were not delusional, that he felt something real must be going on. Why? Because it's this topic, do we just dismiss this guy? I mean, that guy got to that point for a reason. Now we've got Avi Loeb, the head of astronomy from Harvard, making some pretty bold claims that maybe these things are interstellar, maybe some of these things are extraterrestrial. Why do we just dismiss that?
Happen with Avi? I thought something got classified or something got retracted, or I thought something just happened with Avi.
I don't know. He did that thing with the balls they found in the water, and they're looking at those. Oh yeah, somebody came out and said that they were something else. I don't know why we can't just everybody slow down. Let's study this stuff. Let's decide what it really is. You know what I mean? Let's have a little. I don't like both polar ends of these things.
No, yeah, me either. Yeah.
To dismiss things out of hand, I think, is just not being fair.
Yeah.
It's also not being fair to just say it's aliens constantly. I mean, I think that's just as ridiculous. But we try to kind of get to the truth. That's at least our vision.
Yeah. Yeah, Avi, I mean, he seemed to have that Galileo thing going on too. That seems really interesting.
He has that going now. We have several members, Mitch Randall and some others from the Galileo Project, which this is what we want. This is what I'm pushing for. We want to have people from Harvard in the Galileo Project researching and looking at this topic. I think at the very least, the correct position on this should be it's worthy of further scientific study.
That's exactly my stance. That's what I've been saying. I don't care about the government. I want it to be acknowledged as a mystery by the scientific community. That's really it. Worthy of further study.
Why does this topic, for some reason, I think what they did was such a successful disinformation campaign back in the late 40s and early 50s, when they just kind of did the whole little green men tinfoil hat craziness, and they've really ostracized people who have had experiences or seen objects, and that has resonated for years, and I think it was a very successful way to keep people quiet about this. And I think now let's be a little more grown up and realistic about it, and it's okay to talk about this. Why don't we look at it scientifically, and why do we have all these military guys saying these things? Are they joking? These aren't the kind of guys that hoax. Why would these guys risk their reputation? These guys that are coming out with this information, that David Fravor, that guy's, you can't touch that guy. He's got such a great reputation. Why can't we listen to him and say that, hey, look, I've never seen anything like this? Okay.
Well, I think that a lot of people have been. I mean, when I'm just new on Twitter. I'm new on X, right? It hasn't even been a year yet. And I mean, I cannot believe the amount of researchers, and I don't know whether they're armchair researchers or just like UFO X or Twitter researchers, but I mean, compared to what it was like in 2013, 2014, 15, like before 2017, I guess you could say that was probably the, that little line in the sand where the little D disclosure kind of started. But I can't believe how many people are involved in this, and how many. I think it really is. People are accepting it in a lot of
It's
ways.
been growing for years. It exploded in 2017. You're right. I think that was a real landmark thing. And do you know Steve Bassett, the lobbyist?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I've talked to him a couple of times. I can't remember if he came on the show or not, or if
He's terrific, and he looks at this topic more than anyone. I think he's as well read as pretty much anyone on this topic, and he's constantly doing interviews and constantly reading all the articles. And he has told me in the last 6 to 12 months, it's tripled the amount of coverage in media and the amount of articles written about this subject. So that's fascinating. He's been looking at it for 25 years. So that's saying something.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at exactly. And just because the government, well, not even the government, but the Pentagon doesn't want to acknowledge it, that could backfire in some ways. I mean, there's a lot of people kind of just poo-pooing it already. So
you can imagine how this thing is. If they have such things, it would be so buried. You can imagine, within department, within black budget, within, I can only imagine how deep this would go.
And I've heard you kind of express the feeling that, like, why would they release it? Like, I think you have a pretty negative view of the capital D disclosure, maybe.
I do. I have very skeptical about that. Steve, of course, thinks it's going to happen, and I hope he's right. But I do not see a reason or an advantage or a motivation for the government to come out and say, oh, by the way, we have recovered an alien craft, and we know that there's aliens coming to our planet. What does this serve? Unless the aliens are going to reveal themselves, or another government's going to do it, or there's something to push the needle to happen, I don't see an advantage for them to do that. If they did recover that craft and they had that technology or whatever they're able to recover, maybe it's free energy or another type of energy or anti-gravity or whatever it may be that they've been able to glean from this discovery. What's the advantage of giving that up?
Well, I think that their hand will be forced at some point. I mean, whether that's from some non-human intelligence or just people, more whistleblowers coming out or something. They probably won't want to do it, but I think they're gonna have to at some point. Maybe to get ahead with some new energy or some let's say implementation of some new technology. I would think they'd want to get ahead of that, before it slips out away from.
Well, they would want to own it, wouldn't they? They wouldn't want to give it up. And maybe the oil companies are saying, hey, don't do that, and who really runs the world? You know what I mean? That's more your guys' area. But I think these are real considerations. And then is the minute they do that, think of all the lawsuits and all the problems because you lied to us. And you ridiculed my father who was in the army and he said he saw this and you made him out to be a crazy person. And you could just imagine all the backlash that would come with a big D disclosure.
So what is your thought about what's the ideal scenario for you to see then?
Well, I mean, I think what we're trying to do is to get to the truth. So I think, we're doing the best we can by bringing together the people that we know that are out there studying this. Maybe they have contacts with people that are working on these things and bring them together to give us the closest we can get to the truth as we know it today. And you know, they had the Soul Conference in November, and there is stuff happening behind the scenes where people are talking about this, and we are moving the needle closer to disclosure. The fact that Congress takes it serious, the fact that Senator Schumer wrote a UAP bill last year that's 70 pages long is incredible. That wouldn't have happened in 2016 even, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I feel like things are moving in the right direction. Too slow for me. I always say it's glacial. I would really like to see things accelerate, but at least they seem to be moving in the right direction.
What's all this stuff about catastrophic disclosure?
You mean like caused by an alien or caused by?
Yeah, or is that a Twitter? That might be like a Twitter meme thing or something. But
Well, yeah,
everybody's
Twitter's
calling
full
it
of stuff. Yeah,
catastrophic disclosure.
and you mean caused by like an ET or something off planet?
I think that's what they mean is like less than, you know, faster than a glacial pace of somebody else controlling the disclosure, kind of out, I guess, outside of whoever's controlling it now. I guess.
Well, I
outside
guess,
of
you know, if it's an alien or interdimensional, whatever these beings are, these things coming here are, why they could change that instantly. They could land it right on the White House lawn and solve everything. I feel like the world has changed so much in the last 10 years, and things are so polarized, and the world is so subdivided and everything. I think if another country came out and disclosed or whatever, I think a very small percentage of people in America would believe it.
Really?
I really do. I really think a lot of people would be like, "Oh, that's
Here's a
nonsense."
follow-up then. Who
What's
could
that?
disclose? Who could disclose that people would believe it?
Well,
Because
I
I mean,
even
it
think
seems
if
to me
the
like the
president
Navy
right now
kind of did.
disclosed, a huge percentage still wouldn't believe. If they said, "Look, here it is," I think there's people that wouldn't believe it. And what does that mean? You know, and we don't even know what we're talking about here because these things are unknown, of course. One of the big aspects of our conference is artificial intelligence, and you know, in reality, they keep talking about these craft, and they make these 90-degree turns at 7,000 miles an hour, and it's not real because a pilot would die, their brain would come flying out their head. Yeah, well, what if that's controlled by artificial intelligence? And what if it's just a machine? That's what we're sending into space. It's logical for me to think that if there was another civilization, they would design this thing. You know, people get sick, people die, people need to sleep. AI is going 24/7. Why couldn't an advanced civilization create something that would a probe that would go out into the universe, come across and collect data? I mean, that's just rational to my brain. We're doing that now. We're already working on the next phase of probes we're going to send to the universe that'll be controlled by artificial intelligence. So, you know, what about somebody that got a jump start on us and they're a few million years ahead of us? Why wouldn't they do the same thing? So I think that's very plausible in my world.
Go ahead, Darren.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think I just don't know, but I would. It seems like the Navy kind of is trying to disclose it, or I don't know what they're doing. Maybe I go back and forth because I don't think it's aliens. I really don't. I really think it's something more localized than that. I
Could
don't know.
very well be. I'm sure a lot of this is, you know, military tests and things like that. I mean, that just would make sense to me. The argument on the other side of that coin is that even if 99% of these things are military tests or whatever, we only need one craft that's from another planet or another civilization or another dimension or whatever for this to be real. So is it possible that one of those is why not? I think Darren's doing his favorite what's that Canadian's name? You're Canadian, aren't you, Darren? Norm Macdonald. You he he sounds like he's doing a Norm Macdonald take on UFOs over there.
Well, yeah, I'm not. I think. Well, I think there's some shit coming out of the moon that we don't know about. But I have seen a UFO. I had.
Have you really?
Yeah, I had an experience. I mean, it wasn't really much. It was like I thought it was a satellite, and then it changed direction. Like I think Graham calls it a fast walker or a fast mover. But we've
Fast
been doing
movers,
it.
don't they call those underwater? Sometimes they call them fast movers underwater.
I'm not sure. I
Yeah,
mean,
maybe
I
Fast
think
Walker, I think, is the one up top.
after 11 years of doing the podcast, I've just the UFOs and the alien things, it's just never really resonated with me. I don't know what it is. I'm interested in I think there's a lot of maybe some interdimensional stuff going on. I really think that the alien from another planet is like that's the
Information.
misinformation. That's
Now,
the
to me, I feel, Darren, what you're suggesting is way more of a leap for me. Interdimension, I mean, wow, something could travel interdimensionally. I mean, I know that our science is saying that we do have supposedly 13 dimensions of space or whatever, but that is a big leap for me to think that something could travel from another dimension into ours.
Well, but I would add to that I don't think that they can, if that's what's happening, I don't think it can interact with us. I think it's just like little, like, I don't know, glitches in the matrix, because we're in some weird simulation, whether God made it or some nerd made it or what happened, but it's mostly fake and it's highly influenceable, it's malleable, and I don't know. That's just sort of my take on it. And Hollywood sort of came in with all that alien stuff right at the time when they were really just doing shady shit on the American public. When does it really start? Like the 40s is when I kind of put it, the 40s and the 50s, the same time they're making like the Beatles and all these other fake, anti-government, or the whole Laurel Canyon thing where they make these fake musicians, so they're not fake musicians making real music, but it's all to some weird manipulated end that we can't understand. And now, if that's the case, then what we're getting to now would be the fruition of some weird plan that's been laid out for multiple decades.
Well, it's interesting, those things that you're exploring there, like the simulated universe theory. I think that is a huge leap and hard for me to digest, as well as interdimensional beings. For me, it seems more believable to stay in the 3D world and not have to have magic or supernatural. The universe is what, 13 billion years old ish, and we're 4.5 billion years old ish. Why couldn't some other race of some other living intelligent life evolve that's got 8 billion year jump on us? And why couldn't they have Apple computers and technology that just got more and more advanced, that they would travel through the universe and go to another galaxy and send a probe here? That to me is just very logically possible.
I agree.
I think that's
I agree. I used to be right there with you on a lot of that, but then it's like the whole thing reeks of intelligent design or of some sort of design so much. I mean, I came into this show as an atheist, and the one thing that I can't be anymore is an atheist, because every avenue you go down points to someone made this thing. I mean, I don't know who it was. I don't know. I haven't decided that yet, but it got made, and there seems to be some. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying that doesn't mean that they couldn't be traveling here. I mean, I don't know where I fit on that, but I think that Earth is more special than that, I guess, in some weird sort of way. I mean, it's weird because Graham's the one who's going to be a Christian first, but I do think that that this conventional model that puts us as this fluke system and one of a billion, and I'm starting to think that might not be the case. There's something either weirdly synchronistic that's worked out so that life can be on this planet, and if that's the case, it could be multifactored, because you've got sort of an infinite number of options to build it out of. But what it really starts to look at when you start multiplying the orbits of the planets and all these sorts of things, you look at the moon's relation to Earth, and it really starts to look like someone made it. Like, really.
Oh yeah, we got the
really,
eclipse
really.
coming up. I mean, it's pretty incredible to me that the the moon happens to be exactly big enough to cover the sun exactly in that, you know, alignment. So
4 minute period or whatever.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
because
pretty. If it was a little bit closer, a little bit further, you know, it's
exactly.
pretty incredible.
Now, add to that the moon is 27.3% the size of the Earth, and it takes 27.3 days to do a rotation around the Earth.
Is that right? I never heard that. That's interesting.
And now you can start doing these other weird things where you can start dividing the planet orbital days by 108, and you will come within 200ths of a percent, two hundredths of a percent of perfect every time. Which I mean, I go back and forth with Randall because Randall says that he thinks we're measuring accurately and that there's some sort of wall in, but I don't think we can measure that accurately. I think that we're out. I think that it's perfect. That's my interpretation of it. Or the other option is it was perfect and it was left to its own devices and it sort of wobbled out. But I mean, the chance that we can take every planet in the solar system and play these math games with them, it's like either more into that intelligent design or more into some weird simulation, or I don't know what it is, but it all sort of leads to just I'm less optimistic after a decade of doing these that we're leaving the solar system than ever.
Well, if
And
you talk
maybe
to any of these astronomers,
Earth.
you get the math on it, and I mean, there's just what billions of trillions of potential planets out there, and you start hearing that math, and it just seems to me like, don't you think it's pretty improbable that we're alone in the universe?
That's true. I agree 100%. But when I look at the shit they're saying that from, it just all looks like dots on a screen to me. And they're trying to tell me that these ones have an atmosphere of this and these ones have an atmosphere of that. And I'm like, I'm not even sure you guys went to the moon, man.
Oh, you're wow, man. You're on the other side, even further out than we are. See, I'm trying to keep like the scientific tract of the UFO community, and you're past me. Well, that's interesting. So you don't believe in the astronomy that they're saying that there's these trillions of, you don't think that's real?
Well, it's all theoretical.
Is it? I thought we'd been able to measure and film and put.
It's all CGI. It's all CGI. Even the pictures of the Earth, dude, you can go on the website and they'll tell you straight up that none of those pictures are real. They're all CGI. They're all computer generated from these infrared weird spectrums.
You mean from the telescopes that are the Hubble and things are not real photographs?
Spectrums that you can actually see. So it's all enhanced with CGI. It's all computer generated. All the pictures of the planets in the solar system, that's all computer generated. Now, I'm not a flat earther. I think the solar system works exactly how, maybe not exactly, but pretty close to how we think it works. I think we're on a round planet. I think we're on round planets. But when we get out further to that, you got to show me something other than dots and say that this is, because I think once you get into that, it is theoretical. I mean, stars are theoretical as far as I'm concerned.
You mean even within our galaxy?
The sun's there, but you can't convince me that, I mean, allegedly, all these other stars are gas giants, but I think that's a theory, and I think I'm right about that.
Wow, that is another level, man. Yeah, I'm not. I guess I just accept that the astronomy that we've developed is real and accurate. And I mean, we have these telescopes up there. Well, I mean, I believe that those are up there, and I believe that they're filming these other galaxies. And we have devices to measure. It is incredible some of the statistics that they come up with, how they can figure all that. But I guess from my view, assuming that all of the astronomy that is known to us, within that framework, I think these other things are possible.
Agreed. I agree with that. But I guess my thing is that it's called the theory of relativity. It's not, we're not there yet. As far as I'm concerned, there's a bunch of problems with it. And that's why we can't lock it in yet. And I mean, we've had some guys on the show that are arguing that the whole thing might be wrong, that the earth is at the middle of this thing, and I mean, I don't know enough to know if
Well, I
that's
don't know
right or
either, but
not.
I mean, I think that the guys that I trust to know, see, I guess that's where I fall. I trust Avi Loeb and the guys that are degreed in astronomy that they've figured out that, you know, the sun is at the center and that we're revolving around. I thought they've got that math kind of
They
figured.
think
So
they have, for sure. They definitely think they have, but it's
yes, and I guess I'm believing them. I'm
Yeah, I do
suspending
too.
my belief.
I think I do too. I mean, but I read
but
all
with
of
all those fancy telescopes, they can't show me a picture of the moon landing site. I mean, you can show me a picture of a galaxy, another galaxy, but you can't show me a picture of the fucking moon lander. Just saying. Just saying.
I read Charles Fort's books, and he went after the astronomers quite a bit. I mean, he was just like laying out example over example of how they were wrong about all kinds of stuff, and they would never really be able to switch the paradigm until that whole sort of industry was ready to kind of roll over the paradigm, you know, because people would be pointing out UFOs in the sky, astronomers would be pointing out all kinds of stuff way back then in the 1800s. This is all like 1800s, early 1900s, and they would have all these predictions, and they would be wrong, but they would be nobody would care because they were part of the astronomy community, and like that him being wrong about that thing didn't change the paradigm, right? Until the whole era changed, and
Well,
then
there
the
was a
paradigm
time when
changed.
everybody did believe the earth was flat, and it was only when they figured out that it wasn't that whole paradigm changed. You know, I like to bring up the story out here of the Wilson Observatory, that the top astronomers in the world up until they built that thing thought that our galaxy was the extent of the entire universe. And
Maybe
then
it
they
was.
built this telescope that was big enough to go outside, that they saw other galaxies, and they realized we were just a galaxy within a universe as opposed to the entirety of the universe. Now, I'm making the assumption that they're not lying to me and that those are real and that happened. So, but
Yeah,
I, you know,
and it's like the further we can see and the better our telescopes get, everything just changes and the
Yeah.
wider everything gets. I mean, now there's billions and billions of, you know, star systems and planets in the zone. I mean, now we're
Well, to keep coming up with something because it has to. I mean,
You-
reality will keep generating something as far as you can look.
how do you feel about the simulated universe? Is that really
Well,
these
I don't
small-
need to, I don't need it to be simulated, but it's definitely
being rendered as you look at it.
it's definitely being rendered at some level as you look at it, because it's malleable. I mean, I think that. I don't know that I can prove that, but I've talked to a bunch of people who think they can, you know, whether it's through water or this or intention experiments. I think that there's a lot to the new thought and the manifestation stuff. I think that I've played it out in my own life, but that could also just be, you know, I get myself in the mindset for success, so it works out like that way. It could be a chicken or egg scenario, but by that argument, the earth could have been flat. You know, it could have been flat until we decided it wasn't. And once enough people don't think that shit's flat, it's not flat anymore. And you know, that kind of is why I start to think that whoever's running the place, like you alluded to earlier, that's why public perception and control is so important to them, because otherwise they could just, like, you know, they've got all the stuff now. They could just like put us all in camps if they really wanted to. If they really, really, really wanted to, the people that are running the place, you know, we're a hassle. They could just put us in camps. But then I think our greater consciousness becomes a problem for them. We're too powerful of a force, and that's what we've kind of split up into these different sort of areas of the planet that are malleable by different control factors, and they're using our personal manifestation power to steer this thing in different directions and keep their control on it. I mean, that's as near as I can tell. I don't see why else they go to the trouble of controlling the masses when they could just, or it could just be a stop revolt. I mean, that could be the other thing. Democracy could be, the whole scam of democracy could be because they got sick of us tipping over the apple cart,
Well, and
because
I've got an example of
the
that.
rulers haven't changed. We've been in democracy for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, but it's still the same elite motherfuckers running the place.
And I've got an example of the malleability. So you've got Caroline Corey on a panel using science and technology in search of truth, right? I mean, her movie and the stuff she talks about is unbelievable, where people can teach them, basically people can teach themselves to have what, superpowers, basically, what to see without their eyes, that kind of stuff. I mean, reality is sort of a little bit more crazy than we even, I mean, it's even.
Well, that's true. I think there's a lot of things. If you guys listen to any of the theoretical physicists and you hear these guys explain this stuff, it sounds beyond science fiction. And then there's the other end of it. And Darren, I get your stuff about the synchronicities and the feeling, the success, and all of that, and then it manifests. I'm on board with that. The thing I was going to mention about the realities are, you've heard these stories of Native Americans seeing ships on the landscape come from the ocean, and they didn't see them because they didn't know what that was. So they say that they literally did not see them at all because they didn't know, that was new to them. So because they didn't know what it was, they literally didn't even see it. So I think there's some truth to that. I think that there's something there, but I do think, for me, from my worldview, I think that these guys in astronomy that are studying these topics, I don't think it could be as off as you're suggesting, in my view, Darren, because there's a lot of guys looking at this from a lot of angles, and it seems like there's sort of a consensus here. I think that's what science is building a consensus that this is what we accept, that there are different star systems, there are different planetary systems around those star systems, there are different galaxies within this universe, etc. That's kind of where I sit.
Graham, you're muted.
Sorry. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I mean, Darren, do you have any comments to that? Or
Well, that's what they tell us. I mean, that's what they tell us, but it's still theoretical. It's still theoretical as near as I can tell. I don't think anyone like they haven't, it's not anything other than a model of how things might work. There was a bunch of prominent people up until a little while ago that thought it was electric. I mean, there seems to be a lot to that.
Thought was electric.
The universe. So, I mean, that would put all of that on its head. What happens then? What do you know? But I think in their thing, there's still galaxies and all that sort of stuff. And they're looking at something. But everything else where they're like, well, this is a this and this is a that and this is that far away and this I don't know, man. Because everything else I'm looking at seems to be just like hubris and other shit piled on top of each other for a couple of 100 years. I mean, Nature just published something that we're going to go through on our roundup show tomorrow, where 10,000 scientific papers were retracted in 2023. And they say that's probably only a fraction of what they need to do.
But again, isn't that new information got discovered? Like I said, they discovered the Earth is round, so therefore they threw out the papers that said
it's just they can't recreate it. So there's this huge problem in science right now where all of these sort of studies that there's a replication crisis where all this shit that we took for granted is not replicable. So it's junk science, basically. I mean, for lack of a better word, it works sometimes, it doesn't work all the time. But I don't think that really matters to the point of, because what I think we're looking at is we're all just they're all looking at stuff and they have different of the ideas of what that stuff might be, but we're just like, and it's a lot of math. It's a lot.
Yeah, but do you think there's a consensus worldwide with our computers and our technology and our telescopes that guys that are trained in this have come to a consensus of what is this far away and this distance, and that we have some general consensus of at least our galaxy, if not the universe?
There's a consensus. Yeah, there's a ruling party. There's a ruling consensus on what's going on out there, but it's not proven, as far as I would argue. It's a consensus of a model that works, seems to be works observably, but it's everything other than that is theoretical. Everything past
Well, yeah,
like,
we can't put it in a lab and measure it because obviously it's light years away. So
exactly, we can't get there, and all the stuff that says it's light years away is basically based on math. So it's not really, most of this astronomy stuff isn't really based on what we're looking at, because we don't really have anything powerful enough that can actually show us that stuff. You're not actually looking at the planets around Alpha Centauri. You're just like looking at blips on light and doing math calculations, which could be a simulation, who knows? I
listen,
mean,
all
because
of
I
these
don't,
things are possible. There's no doubt. I just feel that, given the best consensus of what we have, that's all we have to go on. I'm going to trust that these guys that are in astronomy and in the scientific world all over the globe using the latest computer technology, I think they're close. I think they're close to what is actually out there. I don't know that they've got it all down perfectly. There may be a new discovery 20 years from now or 100 years from now that will give us a whole new idea.
Yeah, it'll change at some point. Yeah.
so then would you put like then that would put like God's out of the question? No higher power?
Well, that's another whole realm. Wow. Well, I don't know how those two can't
I'm
coexist.
just asking because that's their consensus. The same people that are consenting all this other stuff, their consensus is that, religion is sort of a silly waste of time.
Well, why can't they both coexist? Can't both things be true?
Well, they seemingly can, because when you get them sort of one by one and really press them on it individually, they'll individually agree that there's a higher power, but professionally,
Einstein and a lot of these physicist guys are religious guys. Shockingly.
I think Darren's talking about the modern consensus. I think, Darren, probably.
yeah, like right now, the consensus with the telescopes and all this other stuff is, arguably all of that is to disprove God.
Which is weird because there's a whole movement in ufology about demons and angels and like, are these things demonic? I mean, there's a whole sort of I don't even know if it's
Well, the whole contactee experience certainly does run the gamut of people that have had experiences that they claim are with non-human intelligences, and it does run the gamut from this was a ghost, this was a relative of mine that died and came back, this was a whatever being, mystical being, fairy, troll, whatever it may be, alien. A lot of people in the subculture think that these are the same phenomenon. People are describing it through their lens. Somebody that grew up in a religious family would see a ghost, or would see possibly a religious figure, an angel, for example, an angel, a ghost, or somebody more scientific might say it's an alien from another planet. Somebody that's into super science might say it's an interdimensional being visiting me. So
yeah, or like jinn and elves and stuff hundreds of years ago.
Exactly. And I think those have just evolved into modern day abduction cases, or contactee cases. And, again, we're dealing with an unknown. I think it's fair to say that we don't know, but we've got different people from different backgrounds making pretty interesting claims that something, and even back to those days, think about this. So something's been going on for years, at the very least, it's a psychological phenomenon, but something is going on where people believe they're interacting with non-human beings. That's been going on as long as we can tell, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get to the bottom of that. And people like Whitley Strieber and some of these guys who have claimed to have these direct experiences, I want to hear them out, and I want to hear. There's a lot of people with these claims. I want to see if we can't get a little closer to what it might actually be, or what I would think it would be. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you have
Where do you fall in on the C5 stuff?
Where do I fall on that?
Yeah, do you do that kind of stuff? Like Graham goes out and tries to call UFOs, and
well, I use.
Oh, you've done that, Graham?
Yeah, I haven't in a while.
Allegedly.
I have.
Did it work for you?
Yeah, it really did work for us. Yeah, it was pretty incredible. Yeah.
I've heard a lot of people with success stories of that. It's
but I'm not sure that I really want to do it anymore, or whether I should be playing around with that kind of stuff. Honestly, I don't know if we should be trying to make contact with anything unless we're pretty damn sure of what we're doing, and maybe if we've been through some training or some.
Would you play with a Ouija board?
No, no.
You seem very skeptical about these topics, yet you wouldn't do a CE5 and you
Oh,
wouldn't
no,
play
I'm
with
not
a Ouija board.
skeptical at all. I'm
Oh,
totally
just your brother there, Darren. All right, gotcha.
Darren,
I'm the skeptical one. Yeah.
Gotcha.
on this.
Graham is like all in on everything.
Norm
Yeah.
McDonald
He gave
again, right
himself a
there, man.
coffee. This dude gave himself a coffee fucking enema.
Graham, tell me the truth. Did people call him Norm McDonald before?
No, you're the first one. I think it's
If you flip on a Norm McDonald thing, he sounds exactly like Darren, especially like when he's doing a take on something. It's great.
Yeah, I like it.
And he's got that Canadian thing too. That's great, Darren.
Yeah.
Usually we get Bob and Doug.
Yeah, we get Bob and Doug. So I mean, yeah, it's just we saw stuff in our groups. We had great experiences, but I just, who knows what they are, right? Who knows what they are? I mean, there's been so many stories of things pretending to be something that they're not, or maybe that we're not in a protective enough state for them. I mean, I wouldn't play with a Ouija board. I mean, now I don't even know if I should be making contact with anything, regardless of what the intention.
Stephen Hawking years ago has a quote that he said that I don't know why we're trying to reach out to extraterrestrials, because we may not know who we're contacting. It may not be a good idea.
Yeah,
we should try to be quiet in our little neighborhood as opposed to reaching out, which is an interesting thing coming from Stephen Hawking.
Yeah, Christy Krinkle said in the chats there she had a super bad experience with a Ouija board in HS. I'm assuming that means high school, because that's where we played around.
Yeah, that's
in high school.
For sure.
And then we did see a ghost in a turret in my friend's house. Sorry, we took pictures of a ghost.
Oh yeah,
in a turret, but we didn't see it with our eyes. But we knew it was haunted already. So anyways, this is back in the 80s. But I mean, I just don't think it's.
As a skeptical one, I don't fuck with that shit. I won't go near it. I won't do.
But wait a minute, you're Mr. Skeptical. If it's not real, then why wouldn't you do it?
Because it is real. I think it is real. I think.
Oh, you think that stuff is real? All right, I get you.
100%. I don't think that you should be messing around with malleable reality.
So then you do think that there are other realms of non-human intelligence that a Ouija board would contact, for example.
I don't know that I think that, but I don't know enough. It's not, the juice ain't worth the squeeze. I would put it, I'd probably still 80% don't believe in it, but 20% is enough not to bother, because I can manifest enough success without sort of fucking with any of that stuff. And it just seems like a bad idea. Just in case. I mean, it's like, I hold out.
So you're just playing it safe. I got you. Yeah, it's just why mess?
I haven't ruled out deathbed repention if it turns out that the Christians might be right.
Gotcha.
And I mean, we got so do you know? Here's a question: we've had a ton of people, because you talk to a lot of people. How many people have you seen an uptick in people finding God lately?
Well, I haven't noticed that, but I haven't been doing a show for a little while. So that's interesting. Have you guys noticed that? There's more belief in that?
We've had a measurable percentage of past guests that not just people that you'd be like, what? Really? Really people that would catch you kind of off guard, and over and over and over and over. It's definitely a running theme lately.
That's interesting. I wonder if it's because the world seems more there's more turmoil and nonsense and fighting and polarity and whatever, that maybe they're drawn to such a thing. I don't know.
Yeah,
that could be
they're drawn to fight it. And more overt symbolism. I mean, there is more overt satanic symbolism as well. I mean, there's a lot of that going on. So Christy, speaking of that, Christy says, yeah, my friend's eyes rolled in the back of her head and she started spitting up blood. She came to and literally had no idea what happened. And yes,
wow.
Yes, it was in high school. Yeah, that'll freak you out as a high school student.
They have those videos on YouTube of people doing that with a Ouija board and shit like that happens, if they're real. I mean, that's the problem with today's world, man, between AI and Photoshop and crazy people. It could be, you never know to trust it though. Maybe that whole thing's staged or fake or whatever, but But it is interesting. Some of those videos are pretty good and pretty compelling as well. I've seen them.
What about Skinwalker Ranch? Is there people on in your conference that talk about that? The
Yeah, we have
Skinwalker. I mean,
Dwayne
that's
Ollinger,
pretty
who's the
big.
owner of Blind Frog Ranch, which is the one that's just north of Skinwalker Ranch. And he has had a lot of experiences on different levels, top to bottom, and he's going to be there talking about that. So that's
Right.
interesting stuff too. The ranches all of a sudden are a hot thing. You got Skinwalker Ranch, Blind Frog Ranch. There's a ranch called Bradshaw Ranch in Arizona that's rising in popularity as well, where there's supposedly a lot of anomalous activity. And it's interesting how like some of these things have everything. They have Bigfoot and they have UFOs and they have, these are just sort of hotspots. People seem to feel there's a lot of reported sightings. So who knows? I mean, I don't know what that means. I don't know if it's I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm glad you got some people talking about that at the conference. Anyways, that'll be good.
Well, I do find it all fascinating. I really do, and I think a lot of these people need to be taken seriously, and a lot of people are studying this, and there's a lot of it warrants scientific investigation. And that's where I kind of fall all the time. I mean, we've got Danny and Brinkley there who talks about, he was like hit by lightning. He's died. He feels like he crossed over, and he talks about what it's like coming back and what it was like on the other side. Richard Martini's talking about that too, about crossing over to the afterlife, to the other side. So, that's yet another dimension. And we have people here about psychedelics and the ayahuasca thing and how that's entering another realm and talking to another non-human intelligence
and overlapping with some of the same type of entities that people are seeing in abductions and UFO encounters. So it's really hard to separate all this phenomena out.
It really is. It really is. I mean, the difference between DMT experience and a alien experience and a apparition, apparition in front appearing before you, whatever it is, these people are claiming to have these first person contacts with a non-human intelligence, and wow, and there's a lot of them, and this isn't people that are just faking it or whatever. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of that, but there's a lot of people that you've talked to, their lives have been destroyed. They've gotten divorced, they've lost their jobs because they've had these experiences. Now, why can't we just listen to them and see what they got and why? I think it certainly warrants further investigation. And what else could it be? Let's take a look. Is what I feel.
Yeah. So I do want to ask you about the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance, but also I just saw this post tonight before we got on the air, and I thought I'd ask you about it. But supposedly someone's posting here that Chris Mellon admits that the 2017 New York Times UFO article was not journalism, but part of a plan to sell UFOs to Congress. Have you seen that controversy?
Well, no, I haven't seen that specifically, but I mean, yeah, who knows? Maybe. I mean, the dealing with these unknowns is so tough.
Yeah.
Who's manipulating who? How high does it go up? And it's so hard to say.
Yeah. It's kind of just good to keep neutral on a lot of this stuff, I would think. I mean, that's kind of what
I'm just open. I don't like dismissing it out of hand, and I don't like giving it all the and I don't like when somebody's got all the answers and they come to me and they're like, oh yeah, I know it's this, it's aliens, they're from here, and this is the guy's name, and this is it. Okay, that's harder to swallow for me than the people that are speculating on what could it be.
Yeah.
And that there are alternative ideas of the possibilities.
So what does Hollywood think about all this right now? I mean,
oh yeah, you were asking about the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance. Well, yeah, I think that's sort of a group that we're trying to commingle people in this community with Hollywood to try to make sure we're on the same page to get the right message out. Maybe instead of these fanciful stories. Perfect example is the Travis Walton case. Travis Walton is one of the most credible cases, one of the respected guys in this community for a contactee experience. And, he has this amazing story, and it's shocking to me how it's not enough that he has this amazing story with an interaction with let's call it an alien being. Then they do his story, Chariots or Fire in the Sky, excuse me, and and they have to Hollywood it up and change the story. It's like, really, it's not wild enough that the real story, word for word, you've got to make it even more. So I think part of the goal there is to let's get the right message out from the people that are making these claims. And the other thing is it's sort of a networking thing to kind of blend these two communities together. We're going to have several people that, Hollywood people are going to come that are into this topic. Thomas Jane is a well-known actor. He's written a book about UFOs. Dave Foley is a famous actor, and he was from Kids in the Hall. And
Yeah, I thought that was
he's
him.
got that
He-
huge podcast. He's going to come there. He's very interested in the topic as well, and he has a very, very similar viewpoint on things as I do. He's very much, it feels like it warrants more attention. Dee Wallace is going to be there. She was the mom in E.T. We're going to play E.T. She's going to introduce it. We got a lot of stuff like that. So there's so many things going on. We have 8 stages going at the same time.
Wow.
We have the actual Mitchell Hedges crystal skull there. You can visit the skull. There's just constantly stuff going on, and it's just like this carnival of lectures and panels and different things to experience. And then of course we start our parties, and everybody heads to the bar, and we all talk about what we learned that day and what we heard that day, and you get to interact with the speakers, and then the speakers interact with each other. And it's great because everybody there is for the conference. We buy the whole hotel out, so everyone there, it's like a pilgrimage. Everybody that's there, we have thousands of people there, and we're all there for the conference. So it's not like you just have to find your little group. So it makes it a very unique experience.
So the Hollywood and Disclosure Alliance will have sort of like a presence there then?
Yeah, they have a booth there, and they're gonna they have a panel, so they're gonna talk about the group and their views on these topics during their panel.
Right
What
on.
about the other guy? Whatever happened to him? The Blink 182 dude.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's still out there. What's his name? Rob
Tom DeLonge.
Tom DeLonge. Thank you very much, Tom DeLonge. Yeah, he did the To the Stars Academy, and then there's a lot of different opinions about To the Stars Academy, and I know Blink 182 went back out on the road, so I don't know. As far as I know, he's still in this community. He's still very interested in the topic, and we'll have to see what the future holds for him.
Yeah.
They didn't, because it came out like they're going to crack the code a few years ago. I remember, Joe.
Well, he's hell bent. He seemed to have some serious connections there, and some people were feeding him information, real or not real, and he
wrote those books.
He wrote those books with I can't think of the guy's name.
I know his name. I know Peter Levenda.
Peter Levenda. Look at you with these names. Oh, that felt great on the brain, man. Nice work. Peter Levenda. Yeah, they wrote those big books, and a lot of information in there. And again, we're dealing with an unknown, so it's hard to say, but certainly fascinating to speculate and to try to decipher as much of it as we can.
So how many people are going to be there? Like you said thousands?
Yeah, we'll have between 2,000 and 3,000 people there for sure. Yeah, it should be great.
And where is it again? There's a hotel in, did you say California? Was it?
It's out in Indian Wells, right outside of Palm Springs. It's this beautiful resort, beautiful pool. It's fantastic out there. You're out, near the desert in a giant, beautiful resort, and a couple hours outside of LA. It's just a fantastic setting for such a meeting.
Yeah, that's great. That sounds fantastic. I mean, those types of conferences where the speakers aren't just coming for their lecture and leaving right away, like they're hanging around and sort of mingling amongst each other. Those are amazing because
that's the whole thing. I think that's what separates this conference from many conferences or normal academic conferences. This is like an academic scientific conference where those guys hang out with you and share their views with you. And they say one thing on stage, and then later maybe they say even more to you. You get to hang out with them. You get to kind of, and I like them talking amongst themselves to
Exactly.
see where they're at too, which is always fun for me.
Yeah, you get to hang around, listen to them talk to each other sometimes.
That's the best to me.
Yeah.
I really that stuff you can't get online. We do a virtual online live stream as well. We're going to do that this year for people who can't make it to the conference, but not coming, you miss out on stuff like that. And that's the gold right there, getting to interact with these guys firsthand. And there a lot of these guys have got a lot of incredible stories and some incredible research, and it's fascinating stuff.
Where do people fly into for that? And
Right into Palm Springs.
Right into Palm Springs. And is there anything else that you want to mention that we didn't touch on yet?
Well, it's you can either fly into LA and drive out there. It's a couple hours, or you can fly right into Palm Springs. It's really great to be there in person is what I'll stress, is that I think, hearing these guys firsthand talk about it, and then getting to talk to them personally, interacting with them, interacting with other people that have maybe heard another speaker before, or recommends a different speaker to you, or exposes you to yet another new idea. That's how I learned about the simulated universe. We had Rizwan Virk was at Contact one year, and he's a big talk about that, and then I get to talk to him, and he's this fascinating guy, and it's like, yeah, there's almost something here, and it's just more compelling being there in person. There's an energy to it. There's a symbiosis going on with other people, and it's also a lot of fun. We have live bands, we have parties every night. It's just a good time.
Looks like you got a Skywatch bus excursion too, and maybe a CE5 session as well.
Yeah, we have a bus with Mark D'Antonio and Ben Hansen that goes out into the desert, and you have this,
and those two guys are amazing too.
They're amazing astronomers, and he will point out things in the sky and tells you what's a satellite and what's a planet and how to determine what's different and that kind of thing. It's really interesting stuff.
Where can people get tickets?
Contactinthedesert.com. You get discounted hotel rooms right there too. Everything's at contactinthedesert.com.
Right on, buddy. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Had a lot of fun, guys.
Yeah, good.
It's fun to bounce these ideas around.
Yeah, thanks, sure. Captain. We'll have to do this again sometime.
Absolutely, brother.
Good luck with the conference.
Or work on that Norm Macdonald impression. You can always
maybe I'll start doing a bit,
I'm telling you, it'd be hilarious. I love it
too, and I'll make fun of him being dead just like he would.
He would do that. He'd probably be up there appreciating it. You know what I mean?
Exactly. That's right. All right, Captain Ron, you have a good night. Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot, guys. Take care now.
Yeah.
And that was a chat with Captain Ron. Contact at the Desert. What'd you think?
Well, I don't know. I'm looking at my calendar thinking.
Oh, yeah. I figured you'd be all fucking riled up for UFOs after that.
It reminds me of that. It reminds me of the one I went to, and a little bit of the Paradigm Symposium that we did before starting up the podcast. It was very similar.
You could drive to Scablands and then just keep driving.
Just keep driving down there. It's end of May. So when's our trip? May 15th or
13th to the 18th, 13th to the 18th, and then it'll be another it's another 12 hours, I think, or so.
Yeah, it's probably
and then down the whole coast. You just want to fly. You'd want to fly. It's got to be 3-4 days in each direction, unless you go straight down to Vegas and cut over from there. Then it's only 20 hours.
Yeah,
anyway,
still a long drive. Yeah,
a long drive. Flights are a bitch right now, though. I'm telling you.
Yeah, it's like they don't want us to fly. I swear they don't want us to fly right now.
Imagine that. Imagine that. It's almost
Can you request non-Boeing planes or?
I don't know.
Meanwhile, you're gonna go chat about UFOs and all this extraordinary technology, and the planes.
The plane's gonna break. What you want to do is just check the flight numbers and just check through that. I guess you can probably figure out before you book your flights.
Yeah.
And big thanks to Captain Ron for coming on the show. Big thanks to you guys for listening. Even bigger thanks if you're one of our supporters. We don't have many. We could use more. I think we're down under 1% now. More people listening than ever, less people supporting. I get it. It's tough out there. But if you can, guys, head over to grimerica.ca/support. If you're getting some value from the show, send some value back our way. Even $1 a month. That would help. $2 a month, $5 a month, $10 a month. Hey, maybe you're not hurting. You sign up for $100 a month, and that takes care of 40 people that are hurting, and everybody wins. And we get to stay on the air, most importantly. Grimerica.ca/support, guys, if you can, when you can. Adultbrain.ca for the audiobooks. GrimericaOutlawed.ca for the more controversial stuff. Contact@thecabin.com for art. We didn't bring up that we kind of like half stole his branding. Contact@thecabin.com for all our trips. Contact in the desert for all his trips. Other than that, we love you guys. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.